All right, Madam Chair, we're wired for sound.
Okay, I guess we'll call the meeting to order. Welcome everybody here and remotely. So the first item on the agenda is to approve the December 17th meeting minutes. Any comments or corrections to that? If not, we have a motion to approve the minutes.
I'm open.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have the financial statements through December 31st. I turn it over to Mark.
So through the fiscal year, revenues are at 96%, expenses are at 95% to budget. We have booked estimates for fourth quarter revenues from the granting agencies. Those will be finalized once I make sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. And we are still waiting to book revenues from our EPA grant. So after we do that, we should have a full record of the year's expenses and revenues. On the balance sheet, you have $120,000 in the bank. And we have a total of $637,000 in outstanding receivables. We do anticipate making a slight contribution to the fund balance at the close of 2024. You'll see on the profit and loss statement, there's a $30,000 surplus for this fiscal year. But that will be adjusted down to account for compensated absences, which are a long-term liability. And there's also a mathematical equation that will adjust the number after we do our audit to reflect our contribution to the New York State Retirement Fund. But I still think we'll finish the year in the black. Any questions?
Hey, Mark, I just flagged 3 items under expenses that were quite a bit over the 100%. The first was consulting services, the second was insurance, and the third was workers' comp.
Right.
Anything unique going on with those?
The consultant services, we attempted to address last fiscal year by making a budget amendment, and that's primarily driven by our consultants that are working on the regional broadband plan. So I had underestimated the spend in 2024. I adjusted it up, but that adjustment was not enough to cover the expense. I will say it balances out because the revenues are also higher than anticipated on that line. So that line, US broadband's 117%. And the consultant line doesn't only include the broadband consultant, it includes our auditors and other consultants. So that's why as a percentage, it's outperforming the revenues, but the revenues for the broadband consultant balances out the additional expense. The insurance general, I just underestimated the amount of our insurance. We typically, for our budgeting purposes, allocate the insurance expense over each month, but then we got an actual bill that changed what our anticipated spending was for the year. So when I do the budget, I get last year's expense for insurance. We allocate that expense over the course of 12 months or 24 pay periods, et cetera. But if we get an actual bill like we did this year for the actual insurance expense, and that was higher than it was last year. And then the disability, workers' comp and disability. So that is essentially a mathematical equation. And as our staffing footprint changes, it changes the amount of workers' comp and disability. Last year's estimates were based on a staff of 8 full-time employees and 1 part-time employee. And with bringing on Laura Nortel, that increased the amount of employees that we had. So it changed the number that we were charged for our disability insurance for 2025.
I just have one other question that's unrelated. I noticed recently, I was listening to NPR and the Pine Bush sponsored a commercial. And, you know, I can't even remember what they were promoting. That's how effective it was. At any rate, I'm just curious, because they're a quasi-governmental organization
Mhm.
like us, they get direct funding from the state budget. I mean, I'm not promoting it or recommending it, but could we do that if we wanted to, if we had a big reserve fund that built up?
Yeah, underwriting on WAMC, I've done that before.
Oh, yeah.
Not here, but in my previous job, when we had a more tourism focus. We would take an underwriting contract, usually like $7,000, $8,000. And the only thing you couldn't do was do a call to action because that's violates the FCC rules. But we got attention for some of the things. I don't know that what we do here really warrants that kind of public facing sort of advertisement. But if we are doing something that would be worth that, doing something like that, maybe the climate action plan is something we want to talk about, who knows? But that's something that we can explore and there's no prohibitions for an organization like us
Okay.
doing that.
I think it would be great because I think, we represent the four counties and just to hear some of our residents, hear about the Capital District Regional Planning Commission, maybe they'll look at our website, they'll look at some of the issues that we deal with. Maybe not a big supporter, but
Mhm.
get our name out there a little bit more so people understand. What we do.
What would the messaging be?
Well, all the studies that are being done to look at our website, how we represent the four counties on many planning issues, the studies being done on the internet, access and,
And the
Yeah.
data that we're.
yeah, that we're data
Applying
heavy,
is
sure.
Incredible. I give that to our person. Even the corporation come back and they go, wow.
Yeah.
We just,
I know,
Maybe you talk to Chris Oliver at the Climate Commission, see if they think it's even worth it or, they.
we get like
I think
maybe,
they've done it, there has to see, like, I remember seeing an ad or commercial several years ago about, the regional planning commission. And I agree with you, there's so much data and such a source
yeah,
of information for people. And I don't care what you're looking for, you can find it here.
Yeah.
But we're like a well-kept secret, I think.
I think so.
So it's a way to tell the story.
Mhm.
And, because I think that's something we don't do enough of in the capital region, period, is tell our story.
Mhm.
As well as we should.
Stories sell.
Well, it's something I definitely explore. I am good at putting together a pithy 10-second message. We just have to figure out what the message is gonna be.
Our data is also, we put it in a press release format, which also tells our story by
Yeah.
telling what the data is. Talking about the quality of life in our communities and things like that. So, not supportive of that idea, but I think that, just more press in general could be
Yeah.
helpful. Which we don't get.
I agree.
On budget,
Yep.
Hey, do we have any other questions for the discussions on the financial statements? We have a motion to approve.
I know.
Second.
All those in favor? And next we have the resolution designating the bank signatories. This is an item that comes up annually. Oh, does anybody have any questions on that?
We talked about this at the last meeting.
Amy,
Oh,
can you
okay.
just get that signed for the meeting?
Okay, then we're making a motion then to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And then we have we accept the Smart Climate Communities Grant, which is
Right, this builds on the success and thank you to Todd and his team for their leadership on it. This is the second iteration of our Climate Smart Communities grant. And as a reminder, our first grant was $1.2 million received in 2021 to provide services in a 28 county region. So that is the Hudson Valley, Capital District, Mohawk Valley, and North Country. And that program and partnerships is managed by Todd, in addition to our 3 outreach coordinators who work on the program. This new grant is going to total about $2.1 million, and over the next 3 years, the range of funding due to CDRPC, and there's a typo there, it'll be between 153,000 and 261,000. The remaining funds will be passed through to our partners providing services and outreach in the other areas. The program goals are outlined for you in the bulleted list. Very complementary to the work that we're also doing with our NYSERDA Clean Energy Communities Program and the EPA's Climate Pollution Reduction Act grant program and the Regional Climate Action Planning. The Climate Smart Communities Program also includes, I think, a more planning heavy focus of helping communities do resiliency planning, mitigation planning, all that kind of stuff. And we're proceeding apace with that. The grant contract does require this board action to sign it, which basically just the board action is accepting the grant and authorizing me to sign the contracts.
So did, with a 1.2 million grant received in 2021, that got us through 2024's 3-year grant?
Well, it got us through a couple quarters. We did have to dial down the program a little bit, but thankfully Todd was also able to add how many million to the CDC contract?
Yeah, I mean, it's between the three, just to speak of this, sustainability portfolio, which are the three contracts we gave from NYSERDA and then this one from DC. And which supports 4.5 staff really in our organization, but the DC was just late in trying. They originally had the goal of having a seamless competition for the next rounds of the 2-year funding, and then they were going to lead a competitive grant. So we had to compete against some, actually several large firms that were trying to take it from us, but we wanted again, but they were really slow in getting the solicitation out. So there was, we ended, the last contract was ended in March, but we got a 2-month extension. So we ended up in May finishing. And so there was a gap. So it hurt some of the other parts of the state where they actually had to lay off people and even some of our partners that had to lose people. So it really covers one outreach coordinator plus our administration as well per region. So luckily between the EPA grant that we got and then additional funding from NYSERDA, we were fine and able to keep everyone on and cover that gap. And now we've got 3 years. Once we lock this down and they give us the contract, hopefully by April, we'll have a 3-year run on this one. Got another 3 years, 2.5 years left on the EPA grant, and we've got 2 more years left on the NYSERDA grant, and are pretty lined up to be competitive for another solicitation. So we're pretty solid for a number of years out with the sustainability stuff.
Thanks, Todd. Any other questions on the?
I have one question on a couple of pages of the attachment, 406 and 606. It has a rate per hour of $50. Whose rate is that?
Well, so let's get into some of the sometimes the things that are doing this. So in the case of this particular proposal, we see they're kind of something I don't know is invested, but this is what they did. So the last time around, the contract was broken into certain deliverables. Support the community primarily. So our clients, the municipalities, we help them with certification, which is an easy thing to take a bunch of steps to get points to do sustainability things and get recognized. And then there's things that we're helping them with climate action planning, we're doing gas inventories, those kinds of things. But then there's another category of adaptation and resilience. And they gave us funding to do that last time. We did 16 plans last time. We did them all as a group in Columbia County, and we used Cornell Cooperative Extension on the agreement. It's the first time they ever brought those into the fold as a partner, because they had somewhat of a specialty for that, so we gave them a try. And they did come through, but then staff had left. And then staff were just let go right before that we were going to be. We had already applied and included them on the 5th, but then they let the other staff go. And in my own research, this organization wasn't confident in some of their other partners that they have the technical staff to do this. So we're pivoting and we're going to be internalizing it, and the regional organizations themselves are going to do the adaptation and resilience plans. So that's how they did it in Western New York. We didn't do it that way for the first round, but this round, I think it's a good positioning for our organization because there's going to be more and more funding coming to adaptation and resilience, dealing with just the changes in the weather patterns and the climate patterns. So But the way they did that particular item this time around, last time it was a milestone delivery, different from everything else with the time and materials. Right, they just pitched them an amount and a number of plans. This time around, it's not a milestone, but they required for that $475,000, I think that was the total in that budget item, that you had to come up with one uniform loaded rate across the whole territory, which is challenging because nobody's got the same rate. You have different board organizations, you have different people within the organizations, but at this time, Cornell was going to give them another shot at this. So I said, you tell me what you can do it for. Unfortunately, it comes back to bite us a little bit because it was a low figure.
Yeah, you can't get a handyman now to do work around your house for 50.
Right, but I let them pitch it and remember, this is a competitive grant. And so they were looking at all these different things that we were saying. And if it was a low figure, that was part of our competitiveness and all that. Now that we're going to internalize it, now we have to deal with that rate. So I have spoken to the other partners and they're fine with it. Because there's gonna be 6 county level plans that we pitched. And only one of them will fall in the capital region, because all of them. In Hudson, 2 in the North Country, and then the 3rd year out, we're gonna do 1 here and 1 in the Mohawk Valley. So it's only for that one plan that we're gonna be essentially providing somewhat of a match. If they're gonna monitor that.
Those for the existing staff in like county planning offices, stuff like that.
Well, so we're gonna develop an adaptation resilience plan in our 3rd year of this contract for the capital region. Got it. I would have managed it. What's going on at the other places starting right away. But those organizations are fine dealing with that rate. So they'll basically just be aligning that rate with that initiative, and everything else is the regular rates. So it's just one of those things that the way DC put this together. And
at the end of the day,
it'll be fine.
the way I'm thinking about it is that, we take the delta between what we can get reimbursed in a $50 an hour rate and what the actual cost of the organization is. And that will, in future years, become part of our indirect rate. Because it's essentially something that we cannot charge through a grant, so it becomes overhead, and that's something that will increase our indirect rate in out years. So it's not like we're in a position where we're gonna lose money on this. It's just we're gonna have to be creative about how we recoup those costs.
Yeah, and so you figure it's maybe about a 10 to 15% match in year 3. And that's it. But again, even with the overhead rate that we charge now, that kind of more than covers that in terms of our organization, I lose money still. We're making money because we charge on all these grants a loaded rate, which includes indirect, fringe, and what we pay staff. So all the stuff outside of what we pay staff just funds the whole organization. And so it makes up for anything that match. So we were stuck with what happened, and it was just, I think, better to pivot given the circumstances of that organization and feeling that, and the other team members on our territory team wanted to go forward with this. So try to make the best of this certain circumstance. I could have, because it was competitive, I couldn't go back and change what we proposed. But I've also been told so I think we'll be fine.
All right, thanks.
So does anybody else have any other questions?
Hey, Jackie.
Yes,
Hey, it's Joe Grasso. So Mark, I got a question for you and maybe Todd. So, the management of this program is clearly benefiting, all 4 territories. And it sounds like we're made whole on the effort that we spend here. But any concerns regarding us, administering this program for these other regions that don't contribute to the funding of our organization?
I don't have any issues. It's been a very successful and beneficial program for CDRPC. It's also benefited our partners who work in those regions. We have our capital district region that we serve is the Regional Economic Development Council region. So it includes Warren, Washington County, Greene, and Columbia County. That's how the grant's written. There's no way for us to limit it to the 4 counties. And then Todd has been very adept at his partnership development and cultivation. And he's chosen groups who have good reputations in the regions which they serve. So it's not like we're leading the effort in those other regions. Our subcontractors are leading the efforts, the people with the relationships and the reputations in those regions. And we're operating simply behind the scenes, putting together all the paperwork and submitting it on behalf of the organizations to the granting agencies. So it's a very administrative role in those other regions. So from my perspective, it's really a winning proposition because it enhances our reputation to a broader audience. It also helps other organizations in partnership working outside of our region. That's my perspective on it, Joe.
Yeah, and I can add a little color to that too, is, you know, these are territory solicitations. So if we weren't doing it, somebody else would. The revenue we've gotten, like right now, we have $10 million over the course of the last 8 years in revenue from DEC and from NYSERDA. So when you take let's say a $700,000 budget line for the 3 programs, that's what our amounts are contributing right now to the CDRPC. That's half the staff in this organization, and we're charging a loaded rate on contracts like NYSERDA's with only a 10% match and DEC with no match. We're talking about a couple $100,000 in profit to this organization on top of what we pay. So it's really beneficial to us, and we wouldn't be in the game without it. It covers my time completely. Like if we weren't managing this kind of a program, we only have an outreach coordinator. Our budget's higher than everybody else in this thing because we have to manage it. And because we gained their trust, both NYSERDA and DEC, we're in line to keep having this money come our way. I mean, literally last year, with a couple of phone calls with NYSERDA, we got $2 million added to our contract. So they're big money. You know, a lot of money coming our way, a lot of exposure for this organization. Our reputation in the state is very high. That's why they keep sending money our way. So I think it's, you know, beneficial all along because of the extra revenue that we get, even though those counties are contributing, it relieves your counties of the burden of contributing more and more. We'd have 4.5 more staff without this funding.
It's true. And it's helped us, help us really afloat. No question about that.
So Todd, just so it sounds like we're doing well compared to other regions in the state implementing these goals. Is my understanding of projects have been funded, there's like a lot of fleet vehicle conversions, right? Local government solar projects. I mean, what have you seen in the other regions, and what are the, if someone came back and asked me about this plan and what are the implementable, like just bullet points where we're going?
Yeah, and I think we put together a graphic that would show the clean energy community program specifically. So I'm glad you asked that because NYSERDA's program, unlike DEC's, is a two-pronged program. We've been in this for now 8 years, and that is there's a contract to our organization and to down in Long Island, New York City is the second contract, and then one for Western New York, like us, there are 3 contracts. So in this structure, we've shown the state how we can create an efficiency by a partnership with regional organizations that work with local governments. But with the Clean Energy Community Program, the second, so there's funding for outreach services. We go to local governments, we help them take these actions. But then there's funding for the municipalities themselves, match-free grants, if they do certain things. So there's a process called designation, and you get points if you take steps and do these different things, and then you get a grant or multiple grants. So just to show you this past year, so there was $25 million put towards community grants that were competitive statewide. So everyone was in that same, let's all compete, right? The 3 contracts were competing against themselves. In our territory, we got something in the line of 24 million of that 25 million. I've just had a conversation with NYSERDA, just say, patting us on the back and saying, you guys killed it and great job. So then in the capital region directly, we had a little over 5 million this past year. That's, thank this team here out working with the communities to get them to do those actions, to get the funding. And it's interesting because NYSERDA's got a lot of money and they're looking at more ways to add in the future to this. And we're working with them now. We start in a meeting tomorrow with them, shaping what the new program is going to look like. We actually helped shape a program that just went by So we're in the policy realm of like what we can do with this money going forward and helping them figure that out because they're using our experience with communities to build the next programs. So I suspect they might have put a little more money towards it and they said they'll be announcing that soon. So in other words, we're supposed to be only 25 million and we're looking at our numbers and saying, did we get all 25 million? So they might have put in some few more million in there to the grants that they haven't shared with us yet, but it wouldn't have been another 25. So I would say that our territory got somewhere along the lines of about 85% of the funding for the whole state. Now we have a lot of demand in our mid-Hudson region. So they took one of the biggest shares, they took like 17 million of that. But all of our partners proportionate to the demographics of our 4 regions, because we're all a little different, did really, really well. And we did probably double what would have been projected that we would do in the capital region directly.
Yeah, the agencies like our program and Todd's administration of it because you can spend money. They love it when you can spend money efficiently.
Great.
Yeah, no,
That's
get the
great.
money out the door.
With this increased funding with the DEC, NYSERDA, are you, and these calls you're having with these organizations, are you seeing a push in certain aspects of sustainability that the state wants to do, like whether it's organic recycling, renewable energies, like, so is there like a direction coming from the state that they want to see in the next coming years?
Well, up to now, the kind of actions that have been on the table for NYSERDA clean energy actions reflect the direction that they thought communities could go. Heat pumps for buildings, electric vehicles for fleets, solar for energy. Those are kind of big ones, converting your street lights. So, and communities have really taken those up and just knowledge, so benchmarking their buildings, government operations, inventory. So communities are just smarter about their own energy use, regardless of what the sources are, just being aware of baselining what the uses are and looking for efficiencies, which obviously saves then taxpayers money. So that's been what we've seen so far. It's interesting you asked that question because that's what our charge, we're going to hear this tomorrow at this subgroup of our team meeting with NYSERDA, like, what are you thinking about going forward? What are the kind, and they're looking from us to say, what's the appetite out there from communities? What else can they do? What kind of things can, because they want to push some stuff, and of course we don't push anything. We're just saying, this is optional. You do what you are comfortable doing. It will help you do it. We'll just educate people about it. But they may delve into solar planning as one of the things that they're looking at. They're looking at more deep carbon reductions and tracking of building stock. Do you have other ones you're thinking that you're gonna throw out?
Policies is something they've thrown around a little bit. We push back because I think it's a challenging thing, but things like, implementing a policy to kind of, reduce emissions, similar to like how CCA is done, where you're kind of, it's challenging though for a lot of communities to do that. New York Stretch is another kind of example of that, where you're saying, let's raise the building code for our community. But again, we had a small amount of communities that adopted those ones and they're hard, so.
Yeah, and they take time. So that's the other thing too. So if they go into a policy round, then you're talking about, those are challenging because you're talking about local laws and you're talking about, that some communities might not be interested in that level of engagement with this kind of stuff. So I don't know, we're gonna have to feel that all out. We'll be discussing it with them back and forth for the next probably 6 or 8 months. They're hoping to launch a new funding round in 2026 that will maybe then go out for a number of years. The program's not created yet, so this is all speculation of where they might go. But I know that when the conversations up to now, they want to launch a new program in 2020. This is NYSERDA, a new program in 2026 that provides funding to local governments. That one of the things that's always a challenge with them is the idea of equity, but it might not be what you think it is, right? The idea of equity in the sense of like, they want to push deep carbon reductions. They want to really look at, and some people are saying this, and the leaders really seeing how far they can go with more stricter policies and things like that. But that could leave out a lot of rural communities that we have gotten a lot of interest from. that might not be part of that. So then there's the push to what can rural communities do and what kind of programs can be put out for them. So there's an equity of access to these kind of funds. So I don't know, it remains to be seen, what they're gonna do, but NYSERDA's focus is energy. You know, it's not on the other side of organics per se and the other, DEC
You
related.
said adaptation is kind of a.
That's not really part of what they're doing, although we've heard rumblings that NYSERDA is gonna start getting into that too, and they're doing some kind of listening session. So it's kind of interesting, because our focus has always been energy, and DEC would kind of do the adaptation. Now, so the NYSERDA may end up funding adaptation stuff down the line too.
I
Who
think that's
knows?
important with urban wetland policies that came through, is that there's some things moving that are making things, just giving more uncertainty in development. Thanks for the additional conversation on this. It's the big area that we're focused on from a budgetary perspective, so good to.
Yeah, I mean, I've been encouraging NYSERDA, like we could coalesce a group of communities to be able to share back, input on those kind of things, but they have their ways and they do the things they do. They usually hire a consultant and voice of customer, and they reach out on their own, and then they do ask them questions and come up with some, result that guides where they might be going.
Thanks, Todd.
Yes, thank you. That was very informative. I think everybody learned something from that discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, working on it.
Okay, so any further questions? All right, we have a motion to,
I'll make a section.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next item is, we don't have anything else needed to be voted on here. We have Mark give us a rundown on economic development.
Sure. So good news at the end of December was the passage of the first comprehensive reauthorization of the Federal Economic Development Administration. As you know, we're the designated economic development district under that program, and we receive funds from the partnership planning program. We have received the same amount since that last reauthorization, which is $70,000. And that's a 50-50 match. So the feds give us $70,000 and we contribute $70,000. And we use that to pay for our economic development services. The reauthorization is exciting because it includes, it increases the authorization for the partnership planning program from 33 million to 90 million in the first fiscal year, and then escalating up to 190 million. It also increases the federal cost share from 50% to 60%. And there's some other benefits and things that have evolved, and we're just waiting to see that this bill be signed into law. And we will have to think carefully if our allocation changes. Because matching $70,000 is kind of a big ask, and if the dollar amount goes up to potentially, it could be upwards of $190,000. Where are we going to get the match to match the 40% of the $190,000? So as this rolls out, we may have to think creatively about working with partners, other economic development administrations, maybe funding some of their work through these additional funds, but. Once this becomes real and the agency starts rolling out some guidance documents, then we'll be able to, I think more strategically about how we would approach this funding source in the future.
Do you anticipate anything coming out in the budget next week? From the governor, that we can tap into, this particular part here, expand eligibility to economic development organizations. I mean, I'd like to look at what the county has to offer. What the county has to offer, where there might be the opportunity for a partnership.
That's kind of what I was alluding to. So if we're contemplating a significant increase in this EDA allocation, let's talk to Metroplex, let's talk to the Advanced Albany County Alliance, Saratoga's Economic Development Agency. Because they're really the experts on the ground working with individual business owners. And our role in federal economic development is to get more resources to those folks that are doing this kind of work, including, obviously ourselves. But yes, that's kind of the strategy, what I was thinking about doing.
Anybody have any more questions on that?
No, I'm sorry, I'm just going to add this. With that being said, would you be willing to come to the Economic Development Committee of the legislature and maybe share some of this?
Absolutely.
Okay, if there's no other questions or discussions, we can move on to the 2024 year in review.
Yes, let me just share my screen. All right, can everyone see the screen? Online, I can't see you, so you'll have to just say yes.
Perfect.
Looks
Thank
great.
you. All right, 2024 year in review, very successful year. We'll take you through it. One of the major things that we do each year is advanced slides, is training. So that's kind of a core service that we provide. We had our 2024 annual planning and zoning workshop at Hudson Valley Community College. We had over 150 people attend. It was a very well-received conference, as it always is. In 2024, we did 34 targeted e-blasts. That equates to 35,000 email sends. We have an open rate, which outpaces our cohort nationally, which is 38% open rate. And we did 18 news posts. We issued 3 newsletters and 4 data news blasts, and were authored 21 data news posts. Our clean energy outreach, we partnered with Saratoga County to host 2 solar zoning trainings. We also did a code enforcement training here for folks who are looking to update their codes. Another component of our outreach and training is our Community Technical Assistance Program. This is a program that is geared towards smaller projects, and this is funded in partnership with the Transportation Council. We work with communities to do a variety of things. In 2024, we completed a Saratoga Springs truck study, and we started a project to do essentially a feasibility study for the development of a regional reuse center. And a regional reuse center is like a Habitat Restore on steroids. It would also include construction and demolition debris for reuse. So we're just about to work with that group to give them the final deliverable in early February. Data services and GIS, there's Maddie Hrisco, our data services and GIS maven. She's been busy this year, working on a variety of things. I skipped over one. We took a look at migration patterns in and out of the region, and in and out of the counties of the region. We completed a housing affordability analysis, which you remember she presented on. We examined the foreign-born population in the region, and we examined again migration from New York City. We continue to innovate in terms of how we're using technology to demonstrate, to share data. And as you remember, we developed a regional growth story map for the Transportation Council as a component of their update to the regional transportation plan. We completed age cohort projections in partnership with Cornell University and municipal population projections through 2050 for each city, town, village in the Capital District. We updated our labor force information. We did a report on school enrollment trends in the region. And the conclusion is that they're all going down. And of course, we updated our building permit data as we do every year. Some new data and research that we completed, we did a land cover change analysis between 2011 and 2021, taking a look at changes in land cover over time. And that's not land use, it's land cover. We're looking at forested land, wetlands, industrial, those types of things. We expanded our housing sales. We explored our housing sales in the capital region in 2024. We created a new regional greenhouse gas inventory dashboard, which will be updated as part of our climate planning. And Maddie also completed 9 school enrollment projections for 9 school districts in the capital region. As Todd mentioned, we have been undergoing a very successful year in our Clean Energy Communities program. In 2024 alone, just in this region, the 4 counties, $2.1 million our team behind me has helped secure for municipalities in the region. The lion's share for Albany, communities in Albany County, 1.49 million. And the territory-wide, 8.6 million has been secured for municipalities. And we have 61 communities who have been designated as clean energy communities in our territory. As Todd mentioned, he was recently able to broker an additional $2.3 million to the existing contract, which will take funding through the program out to 2026. And as he mentioned also, he's working directly with the team at NYSERDA to contemplate the shape of the new program after 2026. Climate Smart Communities Program, this is a picture of a press event where the Schenectady County is getting designated as a climate smart community, something that our staff helps them with. The tail of the tape there is that it was a $1.2 million grant. We've worked with 57 communities and 24 have been bronze certified, 2 have been silver certified for that program. This is the tail of the tape. We just approved that grant application for the $2.1 million for the next iteration of the Climate Smart Communities Program. And there are a variety of things that Todd mentioned that we'll be working directly with communities on for that program. This is our EPA Climate Action Plan. This is the first report that was completed back in March, the Priority Climate Action Plan. Currently, Todd and team are working on the comprehensive climate action plan for the region. They've engaged a robust group of stakeholders. They're taking a sector-based approach and working with sector experts to identify the measures that those sectors will use to impact their carbon footprint and reduce the carbon footprint. Unlike the state's approach with their climate bill, we are not telling people what to do. We're asking them what they can do and what they will do to establish our targets for carbon reduction in the region.
Hey, Mark,
Yes.
within the plan, is there something, I'd be interested to know with the pass-through money to the communities, what are they buying into? Is it EVs in their fleets or is it solar planning or
For the
basic energy saving?
clean energy programs?
Which ones are they really buying into the most?
Well, so just I know it can be confusing because we have 3 different things going on here. So the ones that's funding the direct grants to communities is the NYSERDA program, not our EPA climate action plan. That's just a framework for the kinds of things that are going on in the region and updating our inventory. So we have, well, Tara, you want to share some of the things that are coming?
I think a lot of building upgrades that are really popular, so.
For energy conservation?
Yeah, heat pumps, energy efficiency improvements, they're not always like the most fun projects, but they're really critical for municipal facilities. Things like solar panels, of course, fleet electrification is another thing, as well as EV charging stations. Yeah, I think those are the big things, really, so really just trying to get communities electrified.
Did the breakdown 2024 match what it's historically been, with Albany seeing, much more buy-in and applications?
As far as funding goes,
Yeah, I would say so, yeah.
yeah.
So the funding through this program has helped Albany County electrify their fleet. We worked with Schenectady County to electrify their fleet. So those things have been popular for the counties in particular.
You know, and this is competitive and it's available to everybody. So it's just whether a particular county or community wants to be aggressive to take the actions to get the money. And there's various appetites, so.
Electric
Large
school
communities.
buses, is that through this?
We're staying away from school buses.
I don't blame you, I just didn't know if that was part of the. funding.
No, it isn't. It's, so the client's just municipalities, not
Okay,
school
not school
districts. They came to us at one point about a different program that we declined to do because it wasn't really even working school district. It was trying to get find people in the community organizations to advocate in the school district. And we didn't want to play that kind of, well, that's not our role.
Smart move.
So we're due to complete the climate action plan, have a new interactive dashboard with the new data by September first.
Yeah.
And so that's our target date to release that. One of the milestones that we will be talking about in the near term is the release of the updated greenhouse gas emission dashboard. So Maddie's working on that. We have a sub-consultant getting together the numbers. Those of you who attended our workshop in October saw a presentation on our sort of prelude of what those numbers will reveal. The long and the short of it is that since we did the dashboard in 2010, our regional emissions have gone down through a number of factors, which is good. But this dashboard in the future will make available this data at the municipal level, so people can use this data as they contemplate taking measures and taking steps to make improvements to reduce their carbon footprint. In water quality this year, a big milestone was the opening of the Beaver Creek Clean River Project facility that's located in Lincoln Park. The facility will be responsible for eliminating 300 million gallons of combined sewage into the Hudson River. It's the most significant environmental improvement project between here and New York City in probably the last 40 years. This one facility will reduce up to 85% of the entire region's contribution of CSO into the Hudson River. The communities, there's 6 communities, the river cities and villages that border the Hudson River, work together in the CSO Pool Communities Corporation and share costs. The outside communities, not Albany, were responsible for 40% of the project costs for this project. And the communities at the end of 2024 have secured all the financing they need to complete any remaining projects under the CSO long-term control plan.
Hey, Mark, in that picture, is that Joe Coffey with the sunglasses?
It is Joe Coffey standing next to the deputy EPA regional
I haven't seen him
administrator.
in a while. We're all getting old.
We're all doing it the same way.
Yeah. In terms of economic development, Kate Maynard, our Director of Planning and Economic Development, hosted a really successful event in partnership with the Port of Albany to encourage different businesses to start participating in our foreign trade program. The foreign trade program is a federal program that allows for some modifications of tax rules and tariff rules related to imports and exports. And so we encourage businesses to participate, and I'm pleased to report that this year we have added 2 new users of the foreign trade zone in Schenectady County, both companies related to the offshore wind industry. One company starts with a G and ends in an E, and the other company is a subcontractor to them, working on components related to the offshore wind industry.
So you think that, can you just back that slide for a second?
Yeah.
So you think that sailboat is maybe a 42 footer? Just trying to get the scale.
Yeah, I chose this picture to demonstrate the scale of these things, which are massive. Kate also completed the 2024 economic impact analysis of UAlbany, which demonstrated $1.1 billion economic impact of the university. And we worked with Schenectady Metroplex to do an economic impact analysis for the Mohawk Harbor Arena. And she was able to also do 5 additional economic impact analysis for proposed projects in the capital region. As presented at our last meeting, we completed the capital region broadband feasibility study. The study is intended to help potential applicants and internet service providers who are interested in applying for the federal BEAD money through the state. This plan, again, identifies different grant areas and areas that are underserved or unserved for internet access, and all this information is ideal to be used as a component of those grant applications. So it wouldn't be possible. Oh, we got our Capital District Youth Center. How could I forget the Youth Center? We're gonna do that this afternoon. So a $26 million improvement project at the facility started 2 years ago this month, and we are approaching the final phase of construction with anticipated final date of March 2025. Made some significant improvements to the facility. In 2024, we turned over the new 12-bed dorm. We turned over a new admin and visitation wing. We operationalized the state-of-the-art security system. And we partnered with Capital Region BOCES to provide the education program at the facility, replacing the South Colony School District. We turned over a brand new expanded recreation yard with a new basketball court, outside exercise area. I believe the recreation yard has been expanded by 50% for the youth to exercise their big muscles. This is the new enclosed climate-controlled sally port to ensure privacy and safety of youth and visitors when they enter the facility. So now, rather than in inclement weather, getting out in snow or ice or rain, you can pull into this room and the youth can be entered into the facility. This is a picture of the turned over and renovated dorm C. This was an existing dorm, but completely renovated, painted, new furniture. The facility is going to go, as those of you who are on the detention facility board, from 24 beds to 39 beds. So a significant expansion of the facility will be completed by March.
How many people in a dorm room?
It depends on the dorm. So we have, when the project is complete, the facility will include 3 12-bed dorms and 1 3-bed dorm.
What's the length of stay?
The length of stay after the raise the age law has been passed has increased. There are a couple of factors for the increase. That was the courts were slow in processing cases, and the nature of the cases being more complicated because they're typically higher level offenses have slowed down the turnover. Typically, the turnover will usually happen a couple of days or a couple of weeks, and now we've had youth stay in the facility for upwards of 2 years.
This is detention prior to conviction.
Right, this is like county jail, so it's pre-trial detention. Everything that's not the detention facility would not be possible without our talented staff. They've done amazing work this year, as you've heard, in a number of ways. I'd just like to thank them for the great work and making us look so good and helping the region get better. So stop my share now.
Hey, Mark, couple of things. Is this 2024 review available on the website? Yeah,
No, not yet.
I was
okay,
gonna ask the same thing because
Okay.
it was quite a review.
it is, and, do you think we ought to be emailing a copy of it to every county legislator in the 4 counties?
We certainly can. I think I would do it in a slightly different format. So similar to when I go to the counties and give my presentation, I do a 1-pager on what we've done for that particular county.
Mhm.
And most of this, is our regional, so those would be included in it. But I'll think about how to adapt this to do that.
Yeah, to market, and then, so could you just touch up, like, you recently appeared before the Schenectady County,
Yes,
how'd that go?
I thought it went well. What was your review?
Yeah, I think it was well received. Give a high level overview. I think it was well appreciated.
Yeah, I shared with them the 1-pager, what have we done for you lately in our annual report, and gave them a verbal presentation of those things.
So we've got 3 of our 4 counties, we've got to
Right.
touch base. So, like, maybe we can get in front of Rensselaer County at some point.
I was just gonna say that,
Yeah.
I'd be happy to attend with you, Mark. I've made
Great.
Jackie.
There we
maybe
go.
you
Yeah,
can.
definitely.
And Mike Samuel said he would help out with that too.
Okay,
So maybe I can reach out to Mike and we can follow up
Sure.
on that. Okay.
sure.
I'm pretty available, so. Didn't see any problem there.
Are any of these, like, I'm particularly interested in the housing affordability study,
Mhm.
with the amount of money that the governor is putting in for housing in the budget. I know the county is also added $1 million for affordable housing. And trying to find some way to make sure that we leverage all these different resources so that we can have a serious impact on addressing the housing issue.
Mhm.
You know, I know in Albany County, I know it's everywhere, it's a major problem. So I would love to, I mean, I could go pull it down, but I'm gonna ask one of the staff. Are these in different individual reports that I might be able to share?
Yeah, we can share that with you. And when Mr. Schillinger was the chair of the board, we had a productive meeting with Chairwoman Cunningham and Deputy Chair Willingham about these issues, and they invited us to present the data to the county's housing subcommittee. So I need to follow up with, I think, Caitlin to schedule that.
Okay. I will share with them, but report back to them that that's something that I know you had the conversation,
Mhm.
but I'll let them know that we're moving forward with that.
And I'll forward you the document as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
Any other discussion on the year in review?
Excellent job by everyone.
Yes, very, very professional, very comprehensive, yes. So is there any other business? Anybody have any other business?
Just a heads up, our next meeting might be at the detention facility. in their
Oh.
conference room.
With the tour?
Yes,
Would there still be Star Valley Donuts?
absolutely.
Okay,
Essential question.
I was gonna ask the same.
Don't worry, I get them.
Okay. So if there's no other comments or business, I guess that concludes our meeting for today.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Great, thank you, folks. See you in April.